Hey everybody, it's Peter. This is my YouTube channel, Oh For Pete's Sake, where I talk about the cross stitch that I've done for the last month. Um, I wasn't going to do one in February just because I don't have a whole lot to show. And then I was talking to Stitchy Linda, and we're going to be doing a birthday sal. And we decided that maybe one of the two of us should do a floss tube soon, so that way we can talk about what we would like to do for our birthday in April. So that extra 2 weeks between when I normally record and today just means that I have just a little bit more uh, stitching to show you, and the little bit more is actually really cool to show off. So um, the reason I don't have a whole lot to show is because after my last video in January, I decided to dedicate all of my time to Hannah Phillips, 1826. And because I dedicated, oh, and this is by Needlework Press. And because I spent all of my time dedicated to this, I was able to finish it in February. So this is my finish of Hannah Phillips, 1826 by Needlework Press. This is linen is by I don't have my notes with me, so I don't remember who the linen is, but I'll pop it up in the bottom. Using the over-dyed cottons. The um, the pattern was recharted. The antique has a biblical verse. The rechart or the reproduction is an alphabet that's in the middle, and I did mine to use a poem called "I Wish I Could Remember" by Christina Rossetti. I've had this poem. I usually change things in my cross stitch, and so I've had this poem in my queue of things to work on because any part of this would be fun. Those first two lines, I wish I could remember that first day, first hour, first moment of your meeting me, would be a really cool just two lines for a sampler. The end is one of my favorite parts. It seemed to mean so little, meant so much. If only now I could recall that touch. First touch of hand in hand. Did one but know? And it's just, there's several pieces. And so I finally found this sampler. And it was able to fit the entire poem except for two lines. So I've just really enjoyed this. And some of the, I used all of the recommended overdyed cottons. I did change, it did include the young girl's name, Hannah Phillips, here in the bottom, and I put my husband and I. There was a couple, and they were stitched over one. And so you can see that in this picture, they're both holding a bird. And so I made one of them holding a bird as well. And those two people are from the motif book by, oh man, we've all seen it, but it's the book of all the sampler motifs, and so that's where I took the two people from. So this is Hannah Phillips, 1826. And so this will be framed soon, I hope. So it was just a lot of fun to stitch. These, I say it was fun to stitch. This border took a while. Each one of these quilt stars has 5 colors in each star. So they took a little bit of time, but overall, just a blast to stitch. So, yeah. The pattern that I worked on after I finished Hannah Phillips was the Little Acorns by Modern Folk Embroidery. And I have already fallen behind. You know, it's one of those things that in January I stitched this top band. I knew I would get behind, so I had up to this deer finished. And I worked ahead because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fall behind on the stitch along. So uh, I picked it up after Hannah, so that way I could catch up on my February piece. And as you can see, I worked on the beast cap, this deer, and the top of the next pot of flowers. So I didn't make it through. Oh well, it's fine. I didn't finish my February stitching, but hopefully I'll catch up because next month's piece is just these words, and words go pretty quick. So I'm hoping that I can catch up. This is let's see. This is Hometown Fibers Queenie 40 count Verdal, and so it is an even weave stitched. And so all of these cross line, and I talked about this in January, but it's still so pleasing to the eye because it is not linen. You don't have all those slubs. All the threads are equal, so all of this diagonal work in the pot and up here in the branches just looks nice and smooth. So it makes it a lot of fun. So that's how far, just a little bit in this Little Acorns by Modern Folk Embroidery. Take time to look at, let's see, who else is working on this? I know JasonXStitches, he's working on Little Acorns. Sarah Stitchy Spot is working on it. And then there's somebody else on Flosstube, but there's a lot more on Instagram, on Instagram that are stitching along. Everybody's got different colored linen. Everybody's got different colored floss. So it's just really fun to stitch through. So for mine, these two tiers are DMC 3051, and then starting on the next one, I'll be changing my floss so that way I can get a somewhat of an ombre appearance to it. So Little Acorns. The final work in progress is a giant surprise. You know, we often talk about in stitching squirrels, you know, when you're trying to work on something specific and then you just see another project and you drop everything and go after it. And I got a doozy of a squirrel. So, back in January, we had a sit and stitch Ocala. 100 stitcher, well, about 80 to 90 stitchers sit in a room for 8 to 9 hours, and we just sit there and stitch and talk. We do one every quarter. So if you're not a member of the Facebook group, go to the Facebook group, Sit and Stitch Ocala, or there's an Instagram. Anyways, it's a blast. So if you're anywhere in Florida, just come and sit and stitch with us for a day. Part of Sit and Stitch Ocala is a drawing, a raffle. That's the word I'm looking for. And so when you register and you check in, you're given a raffle ticket, and it's just a table full of things that people have donated. And so my number was called, and what was on the table was a cigar box. And so if you're not familiar with cigar boxes, quite a few people use them for stitching. You know, you attach a piece of cross stitch to it and just make it more decorative. And I found this, it's wooden, and the lid slides, so it's not like other cigar boxes where you lift it up. So it's just a really beautiful red. It's got some really cool like paper stickers on the sides, so it's got some character. When I won this, I then took it to the table and I showed my table mates my cigar box. And I'm like, this is what I got. And they're like, wow, that's a really, really cool cigar box. I brought it home and I showed it to my husband, and he's like, "Oh, so your raffle winning was somebody else's garbage." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's a really pretty piece of garbage." So I'm like, everybody else was happy, so he became happy for me, or at least he pretended. So, my squirrel of a project. I looked at this and I'm like, if I were to attach a piece of cross stitch to this, I could put it on the top, but I've got other boxes and I've put things on top, and it just makes it really hard to store a project that's on top just because I can't put anything on top of it. So what I decided was to stitch a piece that will be put on the front. And what I did was I measured, I want the piece to come up to 1/4 of an inch. So I measured how wide and tall I would need it to be. And then I divided it by 18, 20, and 28, because if I were to do it on linen over 2, that would correspond to a 36, 40, and a 56 count linen. So because I did that, I could then go through all of my books and say, okay, I need a piece that is 75 by 100 or 90 by 120. And so, of course, once I got to 56 count, I could do a little bit bigger of a piece. And so I was trying to think, a bright red cigar box needs a really sweet red sampler on the front of it. And so I knew that Blackbird Designs Ooh La La has quite a few little red samplers. So on the front, they made this one into a sewing bag. This one in the corner is just hem stitched. On the back, they've got another one that was made into a pillow, one that was framed, and then yet one more that was up here. And even at 56 count, none of those little red ones would fit. So then I decided that I would have to just take these designs and piece them together in order to make one that is the exact size that I need. So what I did was I took this alphabet and this bird and this leaf border. So I took the 3 elements from this pattern, and then on another pattern I used this motif, and I took this border, and then I also used this border. So I took pieces from all of the red samplers and made my own. So this is Peter's Little Red Sampler, so we'll just call it that. And so you can see that I've already stitched the alphabet except for Y and Z. I've got the first floral motif. This border is still missing a set of a sawtooth border on the bottom, so that way it's little squares. And then it's going to meet, so this is just as big as it's going to be. And so you can see, when I put the box beside it, it's going to fit right there on the front. So I'm using 56 count Weeks Dye Works parchment, and I'm using 56 count Weeks Dye Works parchment, and I'm using the Tudor silk, but I forget which red. So it's going to match the lettering and the red box. So this is my little red sampler. So I'm excited to see it finished. And so that's why I didn't finish my little acorns, because I got distracted by this. And so this is only 1 week of stitching, so I'll have it finished very soon. So it'll be fun to have. That is all of my stitching, and so now let's talk the birthday SAL that Stitchy Linda and I will be hosting in the month of April. So she and I share birthdays in the month of April, and so I should have dug them out. Last year we did the Spring Moon by Plum Street Samplers, and the year before that we had done the Drawn Threads Simply Season series. There was 4 of them. And so this year we've decided to do a more broad birthday SAL. And so the name of it is going to be hashtag strawberries and cake SAL. And SAL is for stitch along. So starting with the hashtag, the first part is strawberries. Starting April 1st, you can do any strawberry. So if you choose anything, probably if you've never done a strawberry, then you probably want to start with Erica Michaels. She is an all-star at stitching or designing strawberries. She's got multiple holidays. She's got multiple different seasons. She's got a songbird series, and she's last year she did a a quilting series, and then for this weekend at Nashville Market, she is going to be releasing a series that is cross stitch and sewing themed. So if you want to do 2 stitch alongs at the same time, you can join our strawberry birthday SAL. And you know, a lot of people have Nashville Market start SALs, so you can do 2 stitch alongs with 1 piece. There are a lot of Prairie Schooler has a patriotic strawberry pattern. I think there's like 6 or 7 strawberries. So if you've got a goal to have several America 250th starts this year, the Prairie Schoolers patriotic ones would also be amazing. The strawberries that I'm going to be stitching is going to be Blackbird Designs Deck the Halls. I showed 2 of those strawberries in my last video, and I'll be stitching 2 to 3 more. It's part of the reason why I tried to convince Linda to do this, was because I have a goal to stitch all of the strawberries in the book, so I tricked her into, well, not tricked. I explained it to her, but I'll be doing Deck the Halls. She is going to be going through her books to find one, so she'll be probably announcing that soon. Probably after market, because she's been helping the Common Thread with their market things this weekend. And then this is such a wide and welcoming stitch along that Hands-On Design did theirs market release this year, and it was a carrot. So if you don't want to stitch a strawberry, there's a carrot. And who knows, I may end up doing the carrot one. That's part of why I'm talking fast tonight, just because I'm behind. We were harvesting carrots today, so I've got carrots on the brain. So it's also why I look a little sunburnt in this lighting, but that's fine, whatever. Yeah, so stitching the strawberries is the first part of the stitch along. And then on April 25th, which is the last Saturday of April, everybody is welcome to come to the Common Thread Cross Stitch, which is our local needlework shop in Ocala, Florida. and we will be showing up with, bring whatever you have for your strawberry. If you kitted it and didn't get it started, bring your kit. If you're still working on it and it's a work in progress, bring your work in progress or your finish. And if you're very good, bring your fully finished strawberry. So bring your strawberries and show them off, and we will have cake at the shop for everybody. Whether you've got a strawberry, a carrot, or, I don't care. Just come and have cake with me and Linda. So, um, yeah, so that's our birthday SAL, our birthday stitch along, which is hashtag strawberries and cake SAL, because who doesn't love strawberries and cake? So that's our birthday stitch along. The last bit of my video is going to be haul. I've been really good about not purchasing anything, and then this past month, I haven't gone crazy. I've only done 2 purchases, but whatever. The first one was the Walker Sisters by Blackbird Designs. Part of the Ocala Stitch Sit and Stitch is you get a $10 gift certificate, or this time we got a $10 gift certificate to the Common Thread. And so I've had my eye on this for a little bit, so give me a gift certificate, and of course I'm going to go after it. So the reason I bought this is because this sampler on the front is really pretty. I really love this border. It's just a very different border from what we've seen in the past, where it's the flower and the leaves. So that might be a Christmas start. There's also 2 other samplers in this one. There's 2 sisters, and the one that I really like is this one, this leaf border. Every one of those leaves is a different color. And so what I've been looking at is maybe not doing the alphabet, but finding a quote about gardens or about flowers, and then putting that quote here instead of an alphabet. Because there's some floral motifs here in the bottom. So that would be fun. The other one is this sampler. And I really I like these motifs more than I like these motifs and this border. So I may have to piece them together. I mean, look at this bird in this one. That's a much cooler looking bird. So anyways, that might be on the to-do list next year, because let's face it, this year's already pretty full. The second piece that I purchased was the Mirabilia Queen of Freedom, which is probably going to surprise everybody, because I've never done. So Fancy Ladies seems like one of those rites of passage that I've never done. I've never done a lavender and lace. I've never done a Mirabilia. I've never done a Nora Corbett. And partly because they're not my thing. I'm not super crazy about it. However, there are 2 exceptions to that rule. Or 2 exceptions to, Queen of Freedom, which was always ridiculously expensive, so I never had it. And then the second one is Queen Eliana by Mirabilia. So those are the only 2 that I've looked at and been like, I could probably stitch that one. So Queen of Freedom might be something that I start soon, just because it is something that I've admired for quite a while. So that's everything. Those are all my works in progresses. Finish up my little red sampler, get back to Little Acorn, and so that's plans for the next month. And then just keep stitching is what I've got planned. Please join us for the birthday SAL. I'm not sure whether or not I will record again before April, but I hope to see some people post something or send me a message that says looking forward to it, and let Linda and me know. So happy stitching, y'all. Thanks.